Well, I'm not expecting to chime in on these matters in my podcasts, and I think that YouTube demands timely content. Otherwise, they're actually wanting me to pay for every view. So, sports happened during the weekend. Yes, yesterday, the NCAA women's basketball tournament was decided. South Carolina Gamecocks versus Iowa Hawkeyes. Yes, and WrestleMania. First, let's talk about the women. I have not watched an entire women's basketball game from beginning to finish in so long. It might actually be like the first game of like the WNBA. That might be as far back as this goes. But Caitlin Clark captured the imagination of the country as she broke records scoring. She also did this while leading the league. Well, is it league? NCAA Division I in assists. She took the Iowa Hawkeyes all the way to the championship game where they ran into the buzzsaw that was the undefeated South Carolina Gamecocks. Aptly named Gamecock. It's a women's team. Interesting. The Lady Cocks, is that a possibility? Truth is that Dawn Staley, her squad was just it. She had the athletic black girls versus the predominantly white Iowa team. And I think that once you got to halftime, you really understood how this game was going to be settled in the paint. You have the South Carolina team controlling the rebounds. You got a gal who's 6'7", is grabbing 17 rebounds on the night without jumping, versus a less than greatly athletic, well, at least we tried, Iowa team. Caitlin Clark aside, really did not have a lot of help, and by the end of the game, she was having to push for some bad shots. She had no other choice. In 2 minutes remaining, they knew what was up. They knew it was over. Okay, we're not going to rub it in their face, hold on to the ball, run the clock out. Let's bring in the girl that's injured. Okay, you get some playing time. Does anyone feel good about that? Hey, you averaged 0 points in a national championship game. Yeah, but at least I got on the court. I would just rather sit on the bench myself. But Caitlin Clark, for the most part, looked pretty good, especially in the first. She had 18 points, and she actually led her team in rebounds, which is really a shame that no one came up big for her. But I guess your big gal is only like 2 inches taller than Caitlin Clark. So we're looking at size discrepancy of 6'2" to about 6'7", 5 inches. And I have to change my opinion on some things here regarding Caitlin Clark. I thought maybe she can play with the guys. Maybe she can get her game to work in some way, because a lot of people don't seem to realize that the women's game, they're shooting really incredibly good from the charity stripe across, like every team's got their own Steph Curry when it comes to shooting the free throws. Do they have the athleticism to force the penalty, the fouls, to go to the line? Look, you got this gal, was it Cabarro? The big gal for South Carolina. In order to win this game, you got to get her in foul trouble. And they really didn't do that now, did they? It's like if you're playing against Shaq, you think, okay, we have to take him out of the game. We get him in foul trouble, drive the ball towards him. But the girl game doesn't work like that. South Carolina actually has a girl who could, let's say, dunk at 5'7". She's listed at 5'10" now. Okay, so she bounced the ball into the basket and on the way in hung onto the rim. An impressive athletic feat. Would I call it a dunk? Not necessarily. You can't get that from most of the girls in the game. And so, what else was Caitlin Clark going to do? I felt bad for her. If she had played the transfer portal game, done like, Lily Van Lith. Look, I'm not a huge fan of the girls' game. That girl's like transferring again. She is hunting and pecking for a championship. Caitlin Clark could have done the same thing. She could have LeBron'd it. She could have taken her talents to South Beach. She didn't. You got to respect that. I respect that more than chasing a championship. Switching gears, I want to say a few things about WrestleMania. And if you are a wrestling fan, you're probably not going to like it. But if you were a wrestling fan, you're going to love it. I did not watch a second of WrestleMania 40. In fact, I think the girls' game got sequestered to starting at about 2 p.m. my time to not have to run into WrestleMania. You don't want to get a piece of that overlap. You kind of, You want as big of an audience as you can. Oh, well, we know all the basement dwellers are going to be over on WrestleMania, so yes. I'm not interested in this shit. Do we need 2 nights of prolonged WrestleMania activity? The entire year for WWE is predicated on WrestleMania. It is, well, we have to lead up to WrestleMania. We're not going to have our marquee guys wrestle. They're just going to point to a stupid sign and say that's where we want to meet. And then that's how the audience is going to know what the feud is. We bring in Dwayne Johnson. We can't talk about Mr. McMahon anymore, right? So we need like kind of a new authority figure that can also get in the ring, can scrap, get talent over. What is get talent over? Okay, well, you bring Cody Rhodes in. You bring him back. He comes back home to the WWE, all right? You have to whip him senseless in the lead up to WrestleMania because he's going to win. And when things are this predictable, it's like whoever gets beat up in the lead up to WrestleMania, the guy that gets beat up, that's the guy who's supposed to win. If he does the beating up, if he's kicking ass and everything and getting over with the crowd like LA Knight was, then he has to lose because that's part of the stipulation. Look, you're going to do this favor. Okay, fine. We'll make you look good in defeat. We're going to make you look strong, but you still lose. There is no way to look strong losing when you know it's scripted. You know that you're being buried. And in the case here, it's such a foregone conclusion that Cody Rhodes gets to finish his story. I don't give a shit about his story. And evidently, the only thing that matters with the WWE is, was your family in the game? Then we'll do you some favors. If not, you're a glorified jobber. And that's where LA Knight is still relatively hot organically. Doesn't even get to get a title match at WrestleMania. So some good that does. Now, Cody Rhodes, he's not going to be in position here to hold the belt forever like Roman Reigns was. The most protected superstar ever. And it's all because of Dwayne Johnson. Oh, hey, you're kind of related to The Rock? Okay, well, you're 6'3". You move like you're 7'3". You have no moves. There might be a hair flip. The Superman punch is lame as shit and everybody can do it. And the spear, it was better when Goldberg did it. Those are your moves. Your entire matches, it's, I'm going to let you do all of your shit. You go ahead, you take me to the corner, all this stuff. There's going to be some interference and I win. And we were expected to sit through that shit for 7 years. I'm glad I'm not into this. I'm glad I don't make appointment viewing of Raw and SmackDown where all they do is put on a variety show. When I applied to be a writer for the WWE, that's the way it was billed. America's last great variety show, sports entertainment. It's about as much athleticism as like gymnastics or figure skating. Like, okay, there's no doubt. There's some skill, there's some coordination, there's some strength, power, everything. But the scoring system is arbitrary in the real sports. And the WWE, it is, do I owe your family money or a favor? Was something done? Is this marketable in the long term? Cody Rhodes ain't going to hold on to this belt forever, so maybe an old guy like LA Knight will get a chance at it at some point. But it's just stupid. What's the point of all this stuff being scripted out if it's this predictable? And when a bigger company... Look, this endeavor is too huge to not do the safest thing every time. We're going to ride this as borderline PG-13 as we can. It's going to be highly predictable. The characters are not going to be funny, except for R-Truth. I'm kind of liking what he does. He does very good in social media. Maybe it's time that we really get some big straps for R-Truth. I know, he's like 100 years old, but he still looks 30. That can be part of his whole gimmick, really. There's ways to work this out. Thankfully, Roman Reigns is now, he's going to have to go look for some Fast and Furious screen time, right? Oh, well, now that you dropped the belt, I guess that means you get to go be a movie star now. Except the movies are completely dead and it is a media for boomers. How do you make money on movies when Gen Z doesn't give a shit about anything but TikTok? And they were the ones that all the movies were being marketed to. Hey, we're afraid to make R-rated content. Yeah, I know. I'm doing something a little bit different here, and I've got my laptop like this. But I don't know. Does this work for you guys? Is it cool having the Apple? I guess if you had the Apple thing in the whole shot, everybody would think that I'm smart because they'd be like, wow, he's got an Apple. He's cool. I don't know how long you can last with this wrestling thing. It would seem as though they're making the right decisions. This guy, they have a con also. He was the guy who was behind pimping out all of their merchandise to fanatics, making licensing deals instead of losing money, making merch yourself. Brilliant. Fleecing Netflix. Netflix is looking for cheap crap to fill all of their production money. They figured that shit out, didn't they? They said, oh, hey, instead of making a bunch of bespoke indie films, a series that only go a half season, then we give up on them. Oh, no, we can just fill time with wrestling. It's going to change the landscape of the streaming services. It really is. For better or worse, probably worse.